The crowd at Westfield Mall froze as the little girl in the pink dress broke away from her mother and ran toward the disheveled man collecting cans from the trash. "Daddy," she screamed with pure joy, wrapping her tiny arms around his legs. The mother's face drained of color as whispers rippled through the food court. No one knew the truth that connected this unlikely pair, a truth that would change everything about how we see the invisible people among us. Before we dive into this incredible true story, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more content that reveals the extraordinary connections hiding in ordinary lives. Your support helps us share these powerful stories that remind us of our shared humanity. Marcus Jenkins hadn't always lived on the streets. 5 years ago, he had everything: a successful career as a pediatric surgeon, a beautiful home in the suburbs, and a loving family. His hands, now rough and calloused from life on the streets, had once saved countless children's lives, including one special little girl named Lily. The day Lily was born, her tiny heart struggled to keep beating. Her parents, Sarah and David Wilson, watched helplessly as their newborn daughter turned blue in the delivery room. The medical team rushed her to emergency surgery, where Dr. Marcus Jenkins performed a miracle, repairing the complex congenital heart defect that threatened her life. For 12 hours, Marcus stood over the operating table, his skilled fingers working with precision that would give this child a chance at life. "I remember the moment her heart started beating properly," Marcus would later tell Sarah. "It was like watching a flower bloom in fast motion. Suddenly, everything that was struggling found its rhythm." The Wilsons were eternally grateful. Over the next 2 years, they kept in touch with Marcus, sending him photos of Lily's milestones and bringing her to his office for checkups. To little Lily, the kind doctor with the warm smile was a hero. Sarah would show her pictures and tell her, "This is the man who fixed your heart when you were a baby." But life has a way of taking unexpected turns. 3 years ago, Marcus's own daughter, Emma, was diagnosed with an aggressive form of leukemia. The treatments were expensive, and even with insurance, the bills mounted quickly. Marcus took on extra shifts, working himself to exhaustion. When Emma needed experimental treatments not covered by insurance, Marcus emptied his savings and took out loans. Despite everything, Emma lost her battle. The grief consumed Marcus. He missed surgeries, forgot appointments, and eventually lost his position at the hospital. His marriage crumbled under the weight of shared grief. Within a year of Emma's death, Marcus had lost everything: his job, his home, his wife, and his will to rebuild. Sarah had tried to reach out when she heard rumors about Marcus's downfall, but he had disappeared. The brilliant surgeon who had saved her daughter's life had vanished without a trace. Until that day at the mall. Sarah hadn't recognized him at first. The man digging through the trash for recyclables bore little resemblance to the confident surgeon she remembered. His clothes were worn and dirty, his beard unkempt, and his eyes, once sharp and focused, now seemed distant, lost in memories only he could see. But Lily recognized him instantly. Sarah had kept his picture in Lily's baby album, telling her the story of her miracle surgery every birthday. "That's the man who fixed my heart," Lily would say, pointing to his photo. Somehow, despite the changes in his appearance, 5-year-old Lily knew him immediately. "Daddy," she had called out, using the term of endearment she had privately assigned to the man in the photograph who had saved her life. The man she had been told to thank in her prayers every night. The crowd's judgment was swift and cruel. People stared at Sarah, assuming she was hiding a sordid past. Others looked at Marcus with disgust, believing he had abandoned his family for a life of addiction and homelessness. The security guard started moving toward them, hand on his radio. Sarah rushed forward, her face burning with embarrassment, not for being associated with Marcus, but for not recognizing him sooner. "Dr. Jenkins," she said, her voice breaking. "It's Sarah Wilson. You saved my daughter Lily's life." Marcus looked up, confusion giving way to recognition. "Little Lily," he whispered, his voice rough from disuse. "The VSD case with pulmonary hypertension?" Sarah nodded, tears streaming down her face. Even now, homeless and broken, he remembered the medical details of her daughter's case. "She calls you Daddy sometimes," Sarah explained to Marcus, loud enough for nearby onlookers to hear. "Because I told her you gave her life. You're the reason her heart beats." The mall security guard who had been approaching slowed his steps, uncertain now. The whispers around them changed tone. "You fixed my heart when I was a baby," Lily said, looking up at Marcus with complete adoration. "Mommy shows me your picture all the time." Marcus knelt down, his eyes filling with tears for the first time since Emma's funeral. "I remember you," he said softly. "You were so tiny, but so strong." Sarah made a decision in that moment that would change 3 lives forever. "Please," she said, "come have lunch with us. I want to hear what happened, if you're willing to tell me." Over lunch at the food court, Marcus shared his story, the loss of his daughter, his spiral into depression, losing his medical license due to missed appointments and medication errors, and eventually, his home. Sarah listened without judgment, while Lily colored happily beside them, occasionally offering Marcus a French fry. "I couldn't save my own daughter," Marcus confessed, his voice barely audible. "After that, I couldn't trust myself to save anyone else's." Sarah reached across the table and took his trembling hand. "But you did save mine. And she's here because of you." As they talked, David, Sarah's husband, joined them, having finished his shopping. Initially shocked at seeing his wife and daughter sitting with a homeless man, his expression softened when Sarah explained who Marcus was. David had heard the story of Lily's miraculous surgery countless times. "We owe you everything," David said, extending his hand to Marcus. "Our daughter's life is the greatest gift we've ever received." By the end of their meal, the Wilsons had learned that Marcus was staying at a shelter downtown, taking odd jobs when he could find them, and collecting cans to supplement the meager income. His medical license had been suspended, not revoked, meaning with proper rehabilitation and documentation of his recovery, he could potentially practice again. "We have a garage apartment," David said, looking at Sarah, who nodded in agreement. "It's small, but it's private." It was meant to be for Sarah's mother, but she decided to stay in Florida. Marcus began to shake his head. "I couldn't." "Please," Sarah interrupted. "Let us help you the way you helped us. Not out of pity, but because the world needs doctors like you. Lily needs her hero to be whole again." The journey wasn't easy. Marcus moved into the Wilsons' garage apartment and began the long process of rebuilding his life. David, who worked in hospital administration, helped Marcus navigate the requirements for reinstating his medical license. Sarah, a therapist, connected him with colleagues who specialized in grief counseling and physician burnout. There were setbacks. Days when Marcus couldn't get out of bed, overwhelmed by memories of Emma. Nights when the Wilsons would find him sitting in the dark, staring at old photographs. But there were also breakthroughs. The first time he laughed at one of Lily's jokes, the morning he voluntarily joined them for breakfast, the afternoon he offered to help Lily with her science project. 6 months after their chance meeting at the mall, Marcus took a position as a medical consultant for a healthcare nonprofit, using his expertise to help design programs for underserved communities. It wasn't surgery, but it was a step back into medicine. Lily continued to flourish, her heart strong and healthy. She developed an interest in medicine, asking Marcus endless questions about how the human body worked. He answered each one patiently, sometimes drawing diagrams to help her understand. "Do you think I could be a doctor someday?" she asked him one evening as he helped her with homework. "I think you could be anything you set your mind to," he replied. "You've had a strong heart from the very beginning." A year after the mall incident, Marcus received notification that his medical license could be reinstated, provided he completed a supervised re-entry program. The hospital where he had once worked offered him a position, starting with simple procedures under supervision, with the potential to work his way back to his specialty. The day Marcus performed his first surgery after reinstatement, Sarah, David, and Lily waited anxiously in the hospital cafeteria. When he found them afterward, his eyes were bright with purpose for the first time in years. "It went perfectly," he said, his voice steady and sure. "A simple appendectomy, but it felt like coming home." Lily threw her arms around him. "I knew you could do it. You're the best heart fixer in the world." As Marcus continued his journey back to full practice, he became a vocal advocate for physician mental health and established a foundation in Emma's name to support families of children with cancer. The Wilsons remained his steadfast supporters, and their garage apartment became his home until he was financially stable enough to find his own place, just 3 blocks away. The story might have ended there, with lives rebuilt and wounds healed. But 2 years after their mall encounter, the circle completed itself in an unexpected way. Sarah was diagnosed with a rare heart condition requiring specialized surgery. The cardiologist recommended only one surgeon for the complex procedure, Dr. Marcus Jenkins, who had recently been reinstated to full surgical privileges and was once again recognized as one of the top cardiothoracic surgeons in the state. "It would be understandable if you wanted another surgeon," Marcus told Sarah and David as they sat in his office, now decorated with drawings Lily had made for him over the years. "There's no one else I would trust more," Sarah said without hesitation. "You saved our daughter. Now it's my turn." The surgery was scheduled, and on the morning of the procedure, 7-year-old Lily sat in the waiting room with her father, clutching a stuffed heart she had received from Marcus on her 5th birthday. "Is Mommy going to be okay?" she asked David, her eyes wide with worry. "She's in the best hands possible," David assured her. "Remember how Dr. Marcus fixed your heart? Now he's going to fix Mommy's too." 8 hours later, Marcus emerged from the operating room, tired but smiling. "She's going to be fine," he told David and Lily. "Her heart is strong, just like her daughter's." As Sarah recovered in the hospital, the story of their interconnected lives began to spread. A local news reporter, overhearing a nurse discussing the remarkable case, asked to interview the family. With their permission, the story was published: how a homeless man collecting cans had once been a brilliant surgeon who saved a little girl's life, how that same girl recognized him years later and called him Daddy in a crowded mall, and how the family's compassion had helped him rebuild his life so he could later save the mother's life as well. The story went viral, touching hearts across the country. Letters poured in from medical professionals who had faced burnout and depression, from families who had experienced loss, and from ordinary people moved by the power of recognition and second chances. Marcus established a mentorship program for medical students and residents, emphasizing the importance of mental health and work-life balance. The Wilsons started a foundation that provided temporary housing for families of pediatric patients, ensuring that no parent would have to choose between being with their sick child and maintaining a job. 5 years after that fateful day at the mall, Marcus stood on a stage at a medical conference, accepting an award for his contributions to physician wellness programs. In the audience sat Sarah, David, and 12-year-old Lily, who now confidently told anyone who would listen that she planned to become a cardiothoracic surgeon, just like Dr. Marcus. "People often ask me how I found the strength to rebuild my life after losing everything," Marcus said in his acceptance speech. "The truth is, I didn't find that strength within myself. It found me, in the form of a little girl who recognized me when I couldn't even recognize myself anymore. Who called me Daddy not because of biology, but because in her eyes, I had given her life." He paused, looking directly at Lily in the audience. "Sometimes we save others, and sometimes they save us. That's the truth that left everyone silent that day in the mall. That's the truth that can change our world, if we let it." The standing ovation lasted for minutes, but Marcus's eyes remained fixed on Lily, who was clapping and jumping up and down in her seat. The little girl whose heart he had fixed, who had in turn helped him find his own heart again. As the applause finally quieted, Marcus added one final thought: we're all just walking each other home. Sometimes the path takes unexpected turns, but if we're lucky, we find the people who recognize us, even when we've forgotten who we are. Today, Marcus Jenkins is back to performing life-saving surgeries. He lives in a modest home near the Wilsons and has dinner with them every Sunday. Lily, now pursuing pre-med studies, still occasionally calls him Daddy when introducing him to new friends, a title he has earned not through biology, but through the sacred bond of one heart recognizing another. The truth that left everyone silent that day in the mall continues to speak volumes about the power of compassion, the possibility of second chances, and the profound connections that exist beneath the surface of our everyday encounters. It reminds us to look more deeply at the strangers we pass, to recognize the humanity in each person's story, and to understand that sometimes, salvation comes from the most unexpected sources. If this story touched your heart, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. Share it with someone who might need a reminder that second chances are possible and that recognition, truly seeing another person, can be the greatest gift we can offer. Remember, behind every face is a story waiting to be heard, and sometimes, all it takes is one person willing to listen to change a life forever.